And boy, has that been. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zoom. We were ready for that, wondering when that was going to happen. I got to push the little got it button. There we go. So you are all being recorded. So smile big for the camera. We will record, well, we are recording, and this will be on YouTube. So if you want to share it later or have it as part of a link in some of your communication, please do so. And we've got some expert panelists today. We're so excited to listen to them, learn from them, and apply some of these best practices from some of our great companies here in the area. We have Megan Bohnenkamp with IMT Insurance. We've got Carrie Haugen with Eide Bailey, and we got Erica Kiefer with AgencyBloc. So they're each going to tell us a little bit about their companies, but also what makes a great workplace culture. Now, and that's going to be different for a small company versus a larger company. I've got a lot of opinions on this, me personally, and the chamber team knows this. I've got strong opinions on workplace culture, but we're a team of 6, so it's pretty easy to build culture with a team of 6, and we are super close. We're like family, honestly. So I think they'd say the same. So here we go. I am excited to introduce Bailey first, who is running our event today. So Bailey is our event, social media, PR manager. Tom Florian is our director of membership and growth. So excited that they are here with us today. And I'm excited to introduce Tom Florian, who's going to introduce our sponsor. Thank you, Tom.
Well, thank you, Katherine. And again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon for today's webinar. I too am excited to hear from our panelists. It's going to be a great afternoon presentation. So thank you all so much for being here. And it's my pleasure to introduce our presenting sponsor, or representative for our presenting sponsor, Security National Bank. We are so thankful to their support of this program. So I'd now like to introduce Dinkla from Security National Bank.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Katherine and Bailey, for allowing us to be sponsor of these events. West Des Moines Chamber has been an excellent partner since we moved out here a year and a half ago. West Des Moines is the best Des Moines. The little word about Security National Bank. The bank is based in Omaha, but it has 3 locations now, one here in Des Moines, or West Des Moines, and one in Dallas, Texas. The bank itself is a family-owned institution since 1965. We are currently on the 3rd generation of family ownership, or I should say 2nd generation, transitioning to the next generation of ownership. All the family members still have a heavy presence in the ownership and management of the institution. The bank itself is about $1.2 billion in assets. That would put us kind of in that middle tier as far as size go, especially for the Midwest. Currently, I would say we take just about anything on the lending side. We are still in our growth phase here in Des Moines, and home equity loans, mortgages, commercial real estate, lines of credit, anything like that. I mean, we're open for business, and rates are extremely low right now. So we are welcoming any and all types of business and lending customers on the lending side. We are a well-capitalized institution. We've been able to weather the storms of COVID, so to speak, and we like to think we were able to do some real good here in the Des Moines area through the PPP lending program, which we did participate heavily in. And we think that we were able to offer a real service to the area. For me, I'm a trust officer. I'm in the Wealth Management and Trust Administration Division. I was actually our very first employee here, which we opened our satellite trust office in 2015, which is when they hired me. That was actually downtown. As that office developed and grew, the need for a retail and lending presence also grew, which is why we then moved out to West Des Moines. But I got my start with the bank in 2015. A little bit about our wealth management division. We are about $1.5 billion in assets, and we take investment management agencies, trust administration, estate administration, conservatorships, which happens to be kind of a favorite of mine. I like to help people that aren't able to care for themselves financially, being able to help them out. And we also do 401k administration services, especially for small companies. That model fits well for those types of companies. So that's just a very brief overview about the bank. We moved out here in March of 2020. In hindsight, opening at the start of a global pandemic that would halt all life as we know it was, maybe unfortunate timing, but we're happy to be here, happy to be a sponsor for our location. We are on Jordan Creek Parkway, right in front of Hobby Lobby. So if you know where that is, you'll know where we are. And we are open for business, and please come see us.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Your facility is stunning. I recommend, if you're just in that area and maybe you're by the Nordstrom rack, pop in. It is beautiful. Their waiting area you feel like you're in an art museum, honestly, because they've got this incredible art and it's so modern and they've got drinks. I mean, it's beautiful. Dylan, you all did a wonderful job with your facility. That's so neat that you were the first employee. I love that. That is pretty cool. So you've seen all the great changes at Security National Bank. We did a ribbon cutting for them maybe about a month ago, and it was fantastic. You had a huge showing out there, and just thank you to you, Raymond Meister, and the whole Security National Bank team. I love your family legacy story. That's pretty cool. 1965. That was a good year, I heard. So yeah, excellent. Love that, Dylan. So thank you for sponsoring and supporting. Really, really appreciate it so much. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible. So, well, I'm so excited to introduce Megan Bohnenkamp, who is a human resources manager with IMT Insurance. We love IMT Insurance. You guys are so generous to the community. You work with the community in such unique ways. So I'm so excited to hear your story, and I'm sure everybody else is too. So take it away, Megan. Thank you.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. Like Catherine said, I'm Megan Bohnenkamp, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'll be honest, I saw Bailey's invite come through and it said culture expert Megan Bohnenkamp, and I was like, wait, what did I sign up for? I don't think I'm qualified for this. But maybe that's how we all feel in this ever-changing world, trying to figure out what is that best workplace to attract and retain top talent. So I'll share some thoughts on kind of what we've tried here at IMT and hope you'll take away a nugget or two. So IMT Insurance, we are a property and casualty insurance company based out of West Des Moines. We have around 375 employees within 6 states here in the Midwest. Let's be honest, historically, working in insurance is not something people find sexy. I guarantee many of my colleagues, and I'd probably even argue this, but it's a reality to the job seekers. So here we have IMT Insurance, a 130-plus-year-old insurance company in West Des Moines, Iowa. Culture couldn't be more important to attract talent to IMT in this tough market that has expanded to not just Iowa, but to the world at this point. So that's really why, culture is something that we've always put a lot of emphasis on, but I can tell you it's so important to us today and in the future as well. So before I get too far, I want to just kind of set a foundation for what I think is important for us in this culture conversation. And so I think we need to ask ourselves 2 questions right away. First off, what does top talent want in a culture? And secondly, what does the word culture even mean? I think we could sit here for days and probably throw out ideas of what talent wants in a culture. A basketball hoop, free popcorn, alcohol, the list goes on, right? But what we are hearing and seeing is they really just want to be trusted to do their jobs, to be in a place where they feel like they belong and where they can go to grow their career and probably most importantly, make an impact. So sometimes I think we might go around and around trying to figure out what it is that is going to make that culture. But but are we making it too hard on ourselves? And at the end of the day, does it really just come down to listening to our employees, to the candidates, to what the workforce is looking for and aligning appropriately? I'll share a bit more on how we've done that here at IMT and what we've implemented there. So secondly, how do we define the word culture? And I know there are many definitions out there. And to be honest, I'm not sure if there is one correct definition. So when we think about culture, we think about it as the sum of the total behaviors that we exhibit every day. The sum of the total behaviors that we exhibit every day. Now, you can either let that happen, accidentally it plays out, or you can be intentional about the culture and aligning that culture to the company core values, the strategy. And I will tell you that is what we did and are continuing to do at IMT. And at the heart of that, I think it's important to know that, we aren't changing our core values or who we are. We're just really being more conscious and intentional in everything that we're doing. So as I step back and I think about previous years, the culture at IMT was one that I honestly would consider it good. It was working for us. It was a culture that really emphasized certain things. For example, fun, specifically socializing, many times in an in-person setting. And then family, more of that close-knit, traditional mindset. But at the same time, we had this culture that was working, but we strived to be that progressive company. And as the world around us was changing, we knew we had to evolve in order to compete for talent today, and then definitely in the future as well. So through a variety of some different feedback mechanisms and analysis, we realized we had some gaps in our culture, and we were starting to see, I guess, what I would consider like subcultures that were kind of separating people. And there were a lot of good things happening in our culture, but to a point of overload. The great things happening were losing meaning and purpose and not really adding to our culture like we felt they should. So we listened, and as a company, we committed to diving in. Like I said, culture is so important to IMT. So in collaboration with a third party, and I'll tell you these conversations were going on before pandemic times even. I think the pandemic has just increased the innovative mindset we're having to have on some of these new ways and ideas. And again, I'll talk more to that. But we worked with a third party consultant and we're able to begin this cultural workplace initiative. So we created a vision story. It was really crafted to set the stage for what we want to see, what's possible. But we knew that we would all have to work together to really see it through. So as I'm sure most of us know, the answer to what these changes might be isn't black and white, or we wouldn't be here today. I think it's important that we remember the words right in the title of today's discussion: invention and reinvention. For us at IMT, this really looks like intentional experiments in practice, honestly. We had to realize that we weren't going to be able to get it right maybe the first time, but just being open to giving something new consideration and experimenting has been a key for us right now, and I believe truly is a key to success in attracting and retaining top talent. At the end of the day, we can't be afraid of change. So with our overall culture, we identified 27 IMT programs and initiatives. Some were things we were doing today. Like I said, a lot was happening. So we just identified what is it we're doing today, and some were new. We looked at where we wanted to be, our vision, and what we felt we could do to help us get there. So these programs and initiatives are all part of what we call the IMT Cultural Roadmap. So literally everything we're doing at IMT, part of one big roadmap. And let me tell you, the road wasn't clear. The path wasn't clear of how this all fit together right away. But really, at the end of the day, the goal of this roadmap is to bring meaning and intentionality really to everything that we're doing, while also ensuring that we are aligning these efforts to our vision and our strategy. So we're kind of in, I would say, kind of the beginning stages of seeing these roadmap programs come to life, whether it's new or enhancement. And I can tell you already, we're seeing some positives in bringing our culture together. I feel like there's the understanding behind, the why of what we're doing. There's the connection to employees and the why and the company vision. And again, just really aligning everything. And we're not even changing some of what we're doing. It's just bringing that meaning to it. So through the roadmap overhaul, one of the things that I want to speak to is leadership. As we were looking at our overall culture, we saw an opportunity to ensure leadership was strong and aligned. And I would tell you, we believe that strong leadership and solid leadership is really important in creating a good culture, a culture where people want to join and stay. Really having those leaders be the ones that are influencing that positive culture, that are living it in their day-to-day interactions. So we brought together some of our leadership teams and created a blended leadership team. The focus of this was really trying to remove that top-down approach. And I'll be honest, we weren't trying to have a top-down approach. It just happened in some of the things we were doing without stopping to step back and ask ourselves, what's going on here? So we kind of removed that top-down approach and created more of that open dialogue across all levels of the company. And I would say at this point, the biggest takeaway from the creation of these blended leadership teams where there's, that open dialogue, open conversation has really been the variety of thoughts and ideas that are being heard. And then the influence that this has had around the all around culture. I feel like the ideas are truly being heard bottom up, all around. There's more of that feeling of everyone being a part of that culture and finding meaning there. The next piece that I think is really important for us to think about when we think about kind of that reinvention or invention of culture is flexibility. I don't know if there's a hotter topic in the world of culture right now than flexibility. So I feel like I have to speak to it. IMT, if you look back, we had people in the office. We wanted people in the office. We loved in-person socialization and fun events in the office. And don't get me wrong, we still love this all. We allowed people to flex hours in some departments, and we were flexible before. But were we? As the pandemic unfolded, even before the pandemic, we started to receive feedback that maybe the flexibility that we thought was great as a company wasn't exactly aligning to our employees and to the candidates out there in the talent force. So we experimented. And let me tell you, I've been a part of many conversations trying to figure out what the right flexibility plan is. We tried once, we rolled out a hybrid approach. Still didn't get the response or that feeling that this would be successful in trying to attract and retain. So back to the board we went, and we did something I don't think we would have done 2 years ago. We asked the employees, an anonymous form went out. And what did we hear? We heard that the employees want to be trusted to do their job and the flexibility as needed, which again goes back to what we talked about right away. What does our top talent want? So I'll tell you, we don't have a finalized plan in place yet for our flexibility. The direction we are headed is one that I think has been reinvented, I don't even know how many times, and it's aligned to what will really attract and retain talent given what we're hearing. We're willing to kind of evolve as those needs change. So these changes that we're evolving plays into part of what was really important to our culture before. And I mentioned this in-person, fun, social events, relationships. It's one of our core values at IMT. And as we start to see the need or desire for this flexibility and that this is what's going to help attract and retain, there is this fear of what's going to happen to those relationships, because this is part of our foundational core value. And I think at this point, one thing that's important that we're doing that I think other companies can do too, no matter what those values are, is not forgetting about the value and making sure that you're thinking innovatively about changing what you can change to get to that end goal. For us, that's continuing to have those opportunities to build develop, maintain relationships, but not letting that value stop you from making the other change that you feel is necessary. So really looking at it as one, and how can we still together be intentional about where we're trying to get to. So for us, we may not happen to run into somebody in the hallway on a daily basis like we used to. And it's different, but we know that if relationships are still important to us, which they are, we can find new ways to ensure that we're still finding ways to develop those relationships, to get in front of people, and to still kind of have that balance of meeting the employees where they're at, but not losing that core value there. So I think really changing innovatively and thinking outside the box is a big piece there. DEI. So I would say another key initiative underway to help attract top talent, attract and retain top talent, is our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. We recently hired a DE&I director, which we're so excited about. When we think about top talent, people want to join or stay at a place where they find meaning, where they can be themselves. And so for us, we're just looking to broaden our lens to ensure that that's happening. And we believe that that is a big part of attracting and retaining now and in the future as well. So I think lastly, I'll touch on here, with all of these new ideas and changes happening around us, and I could probably continue on a list, putting these changes into practice has been something that I think has been really rewarding. So what do I mean by that? I would say we have moved from a culture where we sit in a room and train and hope it sticks, to a culture where we're creating these new ways and ideas, the feedback, everything's coming in. And there's practices that are put into place that are practical for us each day. So they're sticking because we bring them to life each day and see that impact. We're also really emphasizing accountability right now. And that's really just to ensure that we don't just talk about it, but we do something to act on our intention. So that's a big piece. Two things that I think have really helped us. You can have the ideas of what we should do, but seeing it through, I think it's really come down to making sure that there's that intention and action behind it, and then there's also just practical ways to put it in place and holding each other mutually accountable to that. So all in all, I would say at this point, this journey, this cultural journey has really opened the door for change for us at IMT, very innovative change. We've taken that leap through the door, and don't get me wrong, it's a little scary sometimes. But at the end of the day, we own our accountability to the future, and we know how critical it is to continue to really just evolve our culture to compete for top talent. And everything that we are doing today inside our walls, everything we're doing to enhance our culture is part of our overall story that I really feel like we can share with our candidates, that our current employees are living and experiencing, and they're becoming brand ambassadors. They're telling the story. After all, I think we truly do believe that culture wins talent. So it's really important that that's the basis of where we're setting our focus. So I will end my thoughts there, and happy to entertain any questions later in the Q&A. But thank you for the opportunity. And Katherine, I think I'll send it back to you.
Megan, amazing. And I'm sure the IMT team is so excited that you're personally, one of the key leaders that is helping to implement the roadmap, talking to, your team members and kind of understanding what they want, doing those listening sessions. It sounds like you've done a lot of listening and stuff. And, I know everybody that works at IMT, they don't want to leave. So you're definitely doing something right. I mean, a lot of those folks, I remember going to Rich Nauman's retirement party. He had been there for, oh my heavens, Megan, like 40 years or something. It's such a great place to work. And I love to hear how you are moving the needle on, some of these culture things and putting it together in a very succinct way. And I just love it. The positive culture, the flexibility, listening, fun, family. I wrote down a bunch of words. I have a lot of notes here I've been writing down. So very cool, Megan. Thank you. Thank you so much for that and for everything that you do. That's very insightful. I am now excited to introduce Carrie Haugen, and Carrie is a recruiting manager with Eide Bailey. So Carrie, another great place to work. You guys always win a lot of awards on Best Place to Work. So we're excited to learn from you. Thanks, Carrie.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, Catherine, and thank you for asking me. As she mentioned, my name is Carrie Haugen. I'm our campus recruitment manager over at Eide Bailey. Just for some backstory on Eide Bailey, we are a top 25 CPA and business advisory firm. So primarily in the Des Moines space, we are doing our tax and audit practices. But as a firm, we have 44 offices in over 14 different states, as well as an office in Mumbai, India. So we're really growing our presence, which is exciting. We've got about 2,500 employees and 400 partners. And so culture is one of my favorite things to talk about. Being in HR, I guess I would consider myself kind of a culture nerd, but like Megan, maybe not a culture expert. But I'm excited just to share what we have talked about at Eide Bailey and what we have found has kind of worked for us and what we're continuing to work on as we go forward. So where I wanted to start, again, was kind of laying some of that foundation when we talk about culture. As Catherine mentioned earlier, culture can mean a lot of different things depending on the size of your business. For us, we're a company of 2,500 people. We're spread out all across these different locations. And so it was important for us to figure out, what does that mean when we have all these different locations, so that when someone is working at Eide Bailey or working with Eide Bailey as a client in Fargo, North Dakota, where I'm located at, or Des Moines, where all of you are at, or even out to our California offices, they're getting that same experience and that same feel when it comes to the culture and what we offer. I also like to think about culture in the sense of, what does your team look like? What is the culture of your direct team? So with my team, I have, 3 other campus recruiters that I get to work closely with. And we often talk about, what does the culture of our team look like? And how does that reflect the culture of Eide Bailey, especially as we add more people to our team? And so one of the things that Eide Bailey did many, many years ago when we merged firms to create Eide Bailey was create a culture statement. So this is something that, if you're kind of new in the culture space, if your company is really just starting to think about culture and what you want that to be for your company, I would highly recommend a culture statement. This can be, just a short phrase. Ours is quite a few lines long, but really it highlights what we want our culture to be. And as Megan mentioned, the best way to figure out what that is by talking to the people within your organization. I, as a manager, could say, this is what I want my team to be. And I think that's a great starting point. But if I didn't go talk to my other teammates and try to figure out, as a group, what do we collectively value? What are things that we think are important, and didn't take those into consideration, I'm not going to create a great culture for my organization, because I'm only doing what's best for me. So if that's where you're starting at, we at Eide Bailey, each of our offices, we have a culture committee. So that's a group of employees that really takes our culture statement and implements it into their office. Because as I mentioned, with so many different offices, we want to make sure that all of our employees are getting that same experience. And so we have those culture champions that get to help implement those things within their office. And I think, again, that's a great place to start. If you've never taken a step into this culture space, or maybe it's a conversation you've never had before, and now you're seeing that as an issue when you're trying to retain and attract talent, is figuring out, what does culture actually mean to us as an organization? These are the things that are our non-negotiables. So we also, fun is in our culture statement. It's a big one for us, but also respect, trustworthiness, giving back to our communities, that flexibility to, work when you need to and to get your work done. Those are all words that come in our culture statement that we take to every conversation and to every experience here at Eide Bailey. We want to make sure that people are getting that. after you kind of define what that culture is, and it can take time, it's not an easy process to figure out, what exactly it is that you are trying to implement or what you want your organization to be. Once you've got those things in place, the next step is figuring out how to put that into action. One of my things that I always tell the people that I work with is culture is just words on a page until you actually figure out what that looks like. So what's the story behind your culture? So I can, when I talk to talent all the time or students, and I'm trying to recruit them to come work in our office, I could tell them day in and day out that we are a super fun organization and we're flexible and we're all of these things. But unless I have concrete evidence of those, it really means nothing. And so when I try to tell talent about our culture, I try not to use those words with nothing behind it. So, if I was recruiting one of you, I would probably share that, yes, we are a fun organization, and here's examples of how we do that, which I'll cover in a moment. But I think it's finding those personal ties to culture and using them to your advantage. Because if you're going through that recruitment process, you were looking at a new organization to work at, you likely would want to hear your interviewer's personalized experience with the culture. That's going to relate to you a lot more than if they hand you a piece of paper and say, here's our culture statement, this is what we live and breathe by. That's going to mean nothing to you unless you have some of that background. And I think it goes beyond just conversations, right? It's even all the little things. Marketing, how are you relaying your culture in your marketing? So we talk about this a lot here at Eide Bailly in the videos that we make, in the presentations that go out. Again, we could make a video that just says, here's Eide Bailly and the 5 bullet points of our culture. But if we can find people behind that have real life experience and examples of how the culture has impacted them in their career, someone watching that video is going to relate to that a lot more than a list of different items and values. So again, figure out what that story is and how you can tell it when you're talking to talent. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things of reinventing that culture. Again, if this is something that your organization is struggling to figure out what is our culture, struggling to figure out, we've never really talked about culture. Maybe you're a small group of people and you're like, well, I thought we were doing pretty great. Or you're a large organization like us who's really trying to figure out how you duplicate that into many different locations. I wanted to talk about what things you can think about, what pieces go into culture that you can take into consideration when trying to determine that. So one thing I'll start with is just thinking about events. And up until probably March of 2020, like Megan mentioned, it was all in person. We all saw each other all the time. That was how we socialized. Then the pandemic hit, and probably the biggest question on the HR team at that point was, how do we make sure that people who are now working from home, who've never worked from home before, who have always been able to walk to the cube next to them or to the office down the hall, how do we make sure that those people are still being able to build relationships while they're at home? And so when you think about events for your office, and not just events that you do because you feel like you have to, but because you are dedicated to creating relationships within your office, I think we can all agree that we're probably happier at our jobs when we get to know the people that we work with and we feel like we have a connection to them. And so it's thinking about, are you creating ways for employees to connect with each other? And are you doing it in a variety of ways that speak to all the different individuals in your company? So, as I said before, office events, we were definitely the type that was like happy hours during our busy season to give people a chance to get out of their desk. We did golf events in the summer. We did, all these things. And again, I'll go deeper into detail in a moment. But when we had to go virtual, we had to flip that switch and figure out, how do we duplicate that virtually? And now that we're having some people back in the office, we've got some people still at home, we're trying to figure out, what does that look like? So it's offering a mixture of those events. We are doing some of those in-person things again for those people that really crave that connection. But we're also still trying to find ways to connect virtually and to give people the opportunity. I mean, admit I was someone that, before the pandemic, never thought I would work from home. Now I work from home completely, but I'm still close enough to an office location that if there's a happy hour with, people going on, of course I'm going to drive in because I want to see my people in person. But because I work from home, I also crave those ways that I can connect with people while I'm at home in my home office. And so it's finding those ways, within my team. My entire team is actually remote, so we make sure holidays we've got, something on our calendar to just get together and make sure it's time spent not talking about work, because I think that's important too, is to give people a space to not talk about work, to give them a space to talk about what else is going on in your life. I want to know more about you than just what you do every day at your job. So finding some of those ways, and again, if you have multiple locations like Bailey does, a culture committee is a great way to do that. So identifying a couple people in each office that are culture champions, people that love to do these things, love to connect people, and challenging them with, I want you to come up with one in-person and one virtual event each quarter that allows people to connect, and allowing them to be creative with that planning. The next thing to think about when it comes to culture, I think, is benefits. And this is something that Bailey has talked about a lot in the benefits that we're offering our people. Because again, if at work people want to feel respected, they want to feel trusted, they want to feel happy at work, benefits plays a large part into that, because benefits is kind of what gives people that security of, if something happens, I am covered. And this is going to vary really for your size of your organization. If you're a smaller organization, I obviously understand that you don't always have the resources. So just some things to think about it. When you think about benefits, are you positively impacting your employees' wellness with your benefit offerings? And when you think about employee wellness, try to think outside of just physical wellness. So at Bailey, we have structured our benefits to cover 4 main areas of your wellness. So your physical wellness, your career wellness, your emotional, social, and your financial. And so again, we have every benefit that we talk about offering our staff, we figure out, is it going to positively impact our staff in one of these areas of wellness? And if so, what can we do to make sure that those employees have access to all the resources that they might need in order to put that into place? Because again, I think if you've got healthy employees, and not just healthy in physical wellness, but healthy all around, they're going to be more productive at work, and they're going to want to stay because they feel valued at work, that their employer is taking care of them. If you're a smaller organization, again, you may not have access to the resources to offer your employees a very extensive benefit package, but even just having resources on hand. So if an employee comes to talk to you and says, I'm really struggling with, my mental health, and I would really like to talk to someone, you may not have the funds to offer your employees an employee resource program that's, free counseling to them. But perhaps you could have a resource booklet of all the counseling areas in your community, and you could give that booklet to them and say, I'm really sorry to hear you're struggling with that. Here are some of the different organizations in town that could help you. Or here's someone in our office, have you talked to your manager about this? Have you had conversations? And giving them that space to be trusted, that they can open up with what they're struggling with. Obviously that base level is kind of that health insurance and making sure that they're covered in that way. Again, there's a lot of different things. And again, I'll go into benefits in a moment that Bailey's offered, but I really think that's a great place to start too, is culture doesn't have to just be all the fun events and all these things. It can be, are you covering your employees' base needs? I think employee appreciation is another big part of culture, and making sure when you're attracting new talent and trying to retain them is making sure that they feel appreciated. People, and I think people always assume employee appreciation has to go back to dollar amount. And I won't lie, I think money, excites people, and bonuses are wonderful if you have that ability. But I don't want you to just focus on the money. I want you to think bigger picture. This can come down to even, if someone just worked on a large project, are you saying thank you? Are you recognizing the work that they put in? So if you're a manager of a team, do you take a moment to say thank you to your employees? It can be the smallest amount of things like, wow, you took that project off my plate and I had so much more free time and you really did great on that project. I appreciate your efforts to this team. If you're someone that maybe isn't in a manager role and, you're working with other people just at more of that coworker level, it's even just saying thank you. Maybe they filled up your coffee one morning because you had a crazy day, or they, did those little things. It doesn't always have to come back to a monetary value. It can just be showing them that you genuinely care, that you're glad they're a part of the organization, that you're glad that they're there. And I really think a little thank you can go a long ways. I know I personally in my email inbox keep what I call my warm fuzzy inbox. And every time someone has sent me something like that, I stick it in that email inbox so that on a crappy day, I'm able to go back and go, you know what? Today is just a bad day, but this group that I work with is awesome. And I'm able to kind of reference that. And if you don't take the time to share that with people, they won't be able to reference that when they're having a bad day. So think about employee appreciation as bigger than just money, and how can you make them feel like they belong here. And then again, I also, as Megan mentioned diversity, inclusion, and equity. I think something we always think about when we talk about our diversity and inclusion efforts are, we want to reflect our communities that we work in. And so if our offices are not reflecting the communities that we work in, we're doing ourselves a disservice. There's a lot of different people, perspectives, backgrounds out there, and each one of them brings something unique to the table. And so there's, a lot of resources out there to get you started. I think, talking to professionals in that space is a great way. Eide Bailly also partnered with a consultant in this space because we recognized that we weren't the experts, and we wanted to bring in others that were. But also when it comes to equity, just thinking about the opportunities that your people are getting. Are the people in your office getting equitable opportunities for growth, for involvement, to work on different types of projects, whatever it might be? But would just challenge you to take a moment to start to think about some of those things. It's a bigger bucket, but I think asking yourselves the questions is a great place to start. So to wrap up, I thought I'd just share some examples of what Eide Bailly has tried, what has worked, but it's definitely an ongoing process. We're still working through it. So again, in office events, I talked about it. There's lots of different things I would just challenge you to consider, both in office, virtual, what are people enjoying? Benefits, as I mentioned, some fun ones that Eide Bailly has really focused on. We have a lifestyle spending account. So that is an account, it's dollars every year that employees get that they can spend on anything wellness related, not necessarily just physical wellness, but even paying off their student loans, because no one likes having that debt. So that can help in their financial aspect. We offer an employee assistance program so that our staff have access to free and confidential counseling, as well as giving all of our staff members a year-long subscription to the Calm app. So if any of you are, trying to get into that meditation or things like that, Calm app has been wonderful. Our staff have really been enjoying using that to kind of help with their mental health through maybe a crazy time of year, a crazy couple of years at this point. And then when it comes to employee appreciation, again, some of the things we've done beyond just that monetary bonus, we do some fun holiday gifts. Our interns, in July, National Intern Day is celebrated. So we did big events in all of our offices to show them how much we appreciate them. We have a Rising Star Award that each of our offices gives out every year to a top employee. It's an employee nominated award, so you can nominate your coworkers if you think that they're doing great. And then just making sure that, year round, we're having career conversations, we're talking with our mentors in place to keep the conversation going about, what does this look like? So again, I just challenge you, culture is so much more than just words on a page. So once you've got the words on the page, figure out what that story is behind it and bring it to life. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Katherine. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate being here.
Thank you, Carrie. Oh my gosh, that was so good. And even something that's simple can have such a huge impact. So we're going to do that at the chamber. We're going to create a culture statement. Okay, Tom Bailey. So that'll be next on our list. I love that so much. And all the words that you said, I think, things that would be on our list: fun, respect, trust, flexibility, giving back to the community. So those are great words that really I feel real close to and really resonate with me. So amazing. Love all your stories, and your benefit package is so robust. I love how you focus on wellness, but not just physically, but mentally too. Like you said, Carrie, it's been a wild 2 years. So it's been challenging for everybody, right? So I love how, you think of it very holistically. That's incredible. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for imparting your words of wisdom. Just amazing. So, well, I'm excited to introduce Erica Kiefer, and Erica is Chief Growth Officer. I love that title. That's awesome. With AgencyBloc. So thank you, Erica, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I'm going to have a little bit of a different approach. I am not HR, nor have I ever been HR or recruiting. I've always been in sales and marketing. So AgencyBloc is an organization that started in 2008, based out of Cedar Falls, Iowa, a software company that serves insurance agencies and an insurance agency management system. And we have grown. I was employee number 4 in 2014, and we have over 65 employees now. So we're in accelerated growth mode. And the approach that I'm going to take to speaking to you about culture is that we're all in business to make money. Like, realistically, we need to make money. That's what commerce is. That's what capitalism is. So what I challenge everyone to do is to realize that your culture is a key component of your success. So instead of looking at culture or letting people have this like, oh, culture, it's like this touchy-feely thing. We have to be nice to people because they won't want to work here if we don't. People like to feel successful, right? Yes, people like to have fun. They like to play ping pong and have pizza and beer, but people like to feel successful every day when they're in their job. So finding ways to do that on your teams, and then collectively as an organization, when they see that success, that is ultimately coming from your culture, because your culture is the foundation of your brand, right? So your brand is what is going to make you win in the end. And brand is not your logo, and it's not owned by marketing. The brand of your company is sustained by the people that work there, because they are the ones who are interacting with your clients. They are the ones who are interacting with your prospects, and they're interacting with each other, which makes them feel good at work, right? And you also don't necessarily know what the shape of that relationship looks like. So I heard the other two women speaking today about relationships being very important. No question, absolutely. But trying to determine what that relationship looks like for an introvert to have a relationship with an extrovert, a personality of someone who likes to listen and another person who likes to talk, that has to be cultivated individually. And so one of the things I would encourage everyone to do in order to make this link between your brand and your culture is to read a book called The Brand Flip by Marty Neumeier. He has another book that comes before that called The Brand Gap, which is also really good to understand what your brand is and what it isn't. But the brand flip talks about something that Megan talked about, where they were going top down and they realized they needed to flip that. So the brand flip speaks to how consumers today are wanting to be sold in a different way. They're wanting to be serviced in a different way. And it used to be historically that a company, a large corporation, would determine their brand. They would put together their brand statement. They would say, this is who we are. And they would take it out to the public, and they would deliver their brand. The brand is now being determined by the people who are interacting with you, your prospects and your clients. They are the ones who are determining your brand, because ultimately your brand is how someone feels about your company, right? So you can say, we say we're the #1 agency recommended management system. We say that because out there, they're saying that. Do you see? So we're not writing the story anymore, which means that we have to make sure their experience with us throughout their entire prospect to client journey is exceptional. And the best way to do that is for our employees to have the best interactions that they can have, whether it's our sales team, whether it's our product team doing discovery, whether it's our client success team providing support or onboarding new agencies, they have to feel good about what they're doing and that they're contributing to something greater than them, that they're helping people, and that all rolls up to the greater success of the organization, revenue growth, employee growth, all of that they can see where they're contributing. So one of the things that we did, and we heard Carrie talk about a culture committee, we created what we called the culture core. And they're the chair of the core. I'm the executive sponsor, and the chair of the core is our brand manager. So it does not sit in HR. It actually sits primarily on the marketing team from a leadership standpoint. Then we have representatives from every team, sales, product, client success, and HR, who are members of the culture core for a period of time. Right now, it's our inaugural year of this. So they've been on the core for a year, but we're thinking maybe a 6 months rotation might be more realistic, but we're still learning about that. And then, like I said, we called it the culture core instead of the culture crew, which I hear a lot of companies do, or committee, because it felt like that was always like the fun stuff, like let's get together, and those things are very important. But the culture core, and I'll read you our charter statement here in a second, is more than just how do we create events for people to get together and have fun. That is, again, very important. But our charter statement is the purpose of the culture core at AgencyBloc is to promote, support, and maintain the founding cultural elements of the organization. These elements are reflected in the company mission vision document. Our strength comes through our diversity of thought, experience, personalities, and backgrounds. That diversity will be reflected in the activities and opportunities that this team provides and supports. So it's really trying to be as open and listening to who everyone is and what it means for them, and to not get offended when we have a social hour every other Thursday and only 10 people show up and we have 65 employees. Well, those are the 10 people that really needed that. And it's good and it's great and that's fine. But then let's see what the other 55 needed, right? So we've done surveys. Can you share with us why that wasn't a good fit for you? Sometimes it's I got to pick my kids up from school at that time. It just doesn't work out for me. Or I just don't really like getting on a Zoom call and talking in large groups because I can't really hear, or I'm not the person that's going to raise my hand, and I like smaller group things, right? So having that diversity and understanding what it means to support a healthy culture isn't just one thing. We've learned that culture evolves. So one of the bigger things that I would also encourage you to do is to really support your team members in rolling with change and being okay with it, and even trying to get them to be excited about it instead of concerned. And that's hard for a lot of people. I'm one of those people that loves change. I thrive on it. I get bored if I don't have change, right? But other people, it's very scary. Like every time they have to go through it, it's traumatic. So you need to think about that. Your culture will evolve. The culture we had in 2014 when I joined the team is not the culture that we have now. It looks different. We're older. I mean, frankly, right? Like we had a lot of employees right out of college. We're in Cedar Falls. We were hiring UNI students. Those people now are having babies and their kids are going to school and their lives look different, right? So you need to evolve with that and help them be okay with that. But those founding elements of what's important and your values do not change. And some of those for us, our founder said to me one time, it's like, I just want to keep enjoying coming to work, And so that's a really important thing for us. I keep that in the front of my head all the time. Are people enjoying coming to work, right? Like that's something we should be asking as leaders. And again, people like to feel successful, not just always having fun, because you can have fun and still not feel successful, and it still isn't. It's not good. You're not feeling good about the culture. Another one is one of our value statements is we will be human. As a matter of fact, we all have shirts that say we will be human. Being able to be who you are all the time and not put on a different face to go into the office and talk to your coworkers. And of course, we all adjust things slightly, right? That's totally professional. But to have to completely change who you are to go into this situation for 8 hours a day and then come out and be the real Erica, that's exhausting, right? So trying to create an environment where people can be pretty much who they are all the time and feel comfortable and supported in doing that. Those are really the things. I know we're running out of time, but it's just a different approach that I would encourage even the HR individuals that might be on this call. Like, use this as a way to show your leaders that this absolutely affects the bottom line. And you can tie it back to some of the things that Megan and Carrie know very well. Turnover is horrible. Turnover costs the company money. Onboarding new employees costs the company money, time, market share, all of the things, right? We've had like the lowest churn in employee retention that I've ever seen. It's not because that we're doing anything exceptional with benefits or, games or events. It's because we're trying to really make sure that people enjoy coming to work and that they know how they're contributing to the success of the company. That's why people, other than getting a paycheck, which we all need, that's why people say, I love my job. That's all.
I love that so much, Erica. I mean, you hit it right, the nail right on the head. People like to feel successful every day. Like there's something also bigger than them. They're contributing. I love that. And if you can do that in all areas of your business, show them that you also want them to be a success. Maybe it's their CRM system, maybe it's their computer that they're using, their work environment, everything should exude that too, right? So I love that so much. And I love your t-shirts. We will be human. Oh my gosh, that is so great. And you guys, I've been working for a very long time, and I remember the days when, no, you went to work and you had to kind of say this and say that and do this and wear that. And, and I just love that overall, we are able to be more authentically ourselves now, which it's just fabulous. And I just love that. And that's a great way to build relationships, right? Just to be yourself. And it just makes me so happy. It makes my heart so happy. So I love your book recommendations. Fabulous. The Culture Core. So cool. Thank you, Erica. Well,
Yeah.
Thank everybody. This has been so insightful and meaningful. Again, we are recording and share this with others. We all want to build the best companies in West Des Moines. So we attract the top talent. So we attract the folks that we need for our open positions, right? So share this with other companies because we want everybody to know the knowledge of these three experts. Just incredible. Thank you for all your time. Our experts today, our folks that are attending this, and Dylan, Security National Bank, thank you for being our sponsor of the Toolkit series. And Bailey and Tom, I tell you this every day, but I love you so much. And I want to tell you, thank you for all that you do for our chamber and for our chamber family and for our city. So I love you all. I'll see you at the rally on Saturday, right? Yes. Bye, everybody. Thank you.